The makers of high-quality, affordable digital video cameras and the DaVinci Resolve editing system, Blackmagic Design, have just released a camera app for iPhones, and it's entirely free. As far as I know, there's no Android version, and I'm actually not sure if they're planning one. But as soon as I heard about it last night, I downloaded the software to try it out. The layout is based on the UI of their Blackmagic cinema cameras. So if you've used one or own one of those, you will be familiar with it. I have to say, it is a very nice layout. I mean, that looks beautiful, doesn't it? This is one of the best looking camera app UIs I've ever seen. It's not too cluttered, and on the other hand, it's not too simple either. It's just enough information that you need when you're shooting video, with all the non-necessary stuff hidden away. So it's not too distracting. The app is integrated with the Resolve DaVinci editing system. So if you're a Resolve user, this app is even more useful to you. I'm guessing that you will need the paid version of Resolve, but it will then allow you to back up your footage to the cloud so that it immediately appears in your DaVinci project, which is really great if you're working in a team. By default, it shoots in landscape aspect ratio only, so when you hold it vertically, you get a horizontal frame, which means that you can record landscape video when you're holding the phone vertically, which is sometimes easier and more convenient. Now the thing is that shooting like that reduces the resolution a bit, so maybe not the best idea if you are concerned about quality, but it's okay for grabbing quick test shots. Now if you go into settings, you can switch it so that it does allow it to shoot vertical video, in the full resolution. At the top of the screen, starting from the left, we have lens, frame rate and shutter speed. Tap them to open up a controller on the right. And then we have iris or aperture, which for each camera in a smartphone is going to be fixed. But if you change cameras, then you're going to see the iris number change. Then we have the timecode in the middle, which shows the length of the last clip recorded in hours, minutes and seconds. So when you start recording, it resets and then it goes red. You can change this in the settings to display the time of day instead. Next we have ISO and the white balance settings for color temperature in Kelvin and as well tint. Tap those to bring up a controller. Finally we have the current resolution setting. To change that you need to use the settings cog, bottom right. When the shutter, ISO and white balance are set to auto, there will be a little A next to the setting. As soon as you set shutter speed manually, both shutter and ISO become locked. The little A then disappears. To get back to auto exposure, tap the EV value button on the right and now enable auto. To lock focus and exposure, you can tap and hold on the screen like you can with the iPhone's native camera app. But there's no separate exposure and focus reticles like there are with Filmmaker Pro or some other apps. Anyway, tap again to unlock. To adjust focus manually, tap the focus button on the right and now use the slider to set focus. Now, the focus slider is one feature which I do think needs working on because at the moment you can't sweep across the full range of the focus. So for example, if I wanted to film a focus pull from very near to very far, then it's going to be a bit tricky to do that smoothly. Ideally, you would really want to make a focus pull in one movement. So it's okay for short focus pulls. You can do those fine. And now there's another problem, which is that when you start recording, the focus slider slides away. So that means that to shoot a focus pull, you then need to start recording and then tap the focus controller again to open it. It's just a little bit less convenient, isn't it? Maybe having a setting somewhere so that you could switch that off if you wanted to do focus pulls. That would be useful. There's also no automated focus change system like you get with Filmmaker Pro and other apps, which allows you to program in a change from one focus point to another focus point, and then it will do it sort of nice and smoothly for you. And many apps do that, not just Filmmaker Pro, but this doesn't. This is more simple, but perhaps a feature that might get added in the future. Because this is the first version of this app, and hopefully they will improve the focus control in later versions. We also have some other buttons on the right side. So let's quickly go through those. In the middle, obviously, is the record button. Tap to record, tap to stop recording. Tap the top button to open up all kinds of overlays, analytics, and guides. So you can set a grid guide, for example. You can set safety areas at various ratios. You can custom adjust these guides too. Now, next down is the focus control, which I already talked about. Then there's exposure value, which is like the slider that you get on the native app. If you want to keep auto exposure but compensate up or down, you can set that here. As well, you can lock and unlock auto exposure by tapping at the top. So if you disable auto exposure, shutter speed and ISO immediately become locked at their current settings. This means that you can actually lock the exposure at the same time as allowing the focus to be set automatically. Below the record button is the button for stabilization settings. Now notice that when you go through the different levels of stabilization, it does not crop in as much as it does with apps like Filmmaker Pro. And actually, in fact, it seems that standard, cinematic and extreme are all the same level. When you set these higher stabilization settings in Filmmaker Pro, you get noticeable latency. So there's a delay when you move the camera. And that's actually the stabilization working. So I think that's something that also needs fixing in the Blackmagic app. Next down is the zoom controller, and below that is a button to open up media management settings. And that's useful for shooting a movie, and you want to keep track of takes and scenes, and you can get these to match your screenplay, and that's going to save you time when you're editing. It just makes it easier to reference and find the correct takes for the correct scenes. Bottom left of the screen, we have a histogram for RGB levels. Bottom middle, we have memory remaining in the device. And bottom right, we have audio levels. If you tap the audio levels, you get a bigger version in the middle of the screen with a slider, which is currently disabled. And my guess is that this slider is for when you have external microphones and you need to be able to set the audio level manually. Further right, we've got some more buttons. Camera just enables the main shooting screen, which is what we've been looking at. Media takes you to your media gallery. If you have a Blackmagic account, you can log in and then you can sync your files. Further down is chat, which again, you need to log in to your Blackmagic account to be able to access that feature. And finally, we have settings, which contains all your main settings for your video codec, where all the ProRes settings are. And then you've got video resolution, which is just 4K, 1080p and 720p. We've got color space. So here you can switch to Dolby Vision, which is actually called Rec 2020 here. And you can change the time code, as I said earlier, from time to the time of day. You can also switch to time-lapse recording, and you can also switch it to stop recording if you get dropped frames. And there's all kinds of other settings here. So under the camera here, you can set your anamorphic D-squeeze, 1.33 and 1.55. You can enable vertical video. Otherwise, like I say, it's just going to record everything horizontal. Below, there are audio settings, and below that, all kinds of other settings, which are, a bit more niche, but it's plenty to dive into there. For example, here you can enable the app to auto-upload the clips to a specified DaVinci Resolve project. That's it for this video. If you want to learn more about smartphone filmmaking, then you can join me on Patreon. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye.